80 pitches. We're seeing him go 90, 95 pitches in an outing where he's getting obliterated. So let the guy go out another inning. Let him go 6. And if he gets into a shaky situation, have a quick hook and get him out of there. But I don't know. I personally thought he should have gone some more, at least one more inning. But I'm okay with him getting taken out after 5 to keep that confidence level up there for Aaron Sanchez. You didn't want to see him get into any issues and then have the confidence dip and go down in the trash. So I do get it at some points.
Yeah, and Aaron Sanchez has not pitched 5+ innings in a start and allowed 1 or more run since April 27. So I was kind of hoping he would go at least 6, maybe pushing it to 7, but guys, we just got to appreciate a good Aaron Sanchez start, and that's what we have to get out of this.
Yeah, no doubt, and hoping that this can be a start that he can build on and hopefully improve to a point where he's able to build at least some sort of value before the season ends, so that maybe the Blue Jays can get something for him in the offseason. That would be the ideal scenario at this point. But now we're going to move on to news that came out this week. Dalton Pompey was DFA'd by the Blue Jays, so that puts his future with the Blue Jays in jeopardy if he's not claimed by a team, or if he is claimed by a team, he'll be gone. But if he's not, then he can sneak through waivers and head back to Buffalo. But what was your reaction about this move? A pretty big news of the week.
I'm a little shocked, to be honest with you. The way that Dalton Pompey has, been with this team for as long as he has, and gone through all the injury issues that he has, and I honestly thought they were going to give him a chance. I mean, you're telling me there's not one guy in this roster that they could send down? They've brought up. Look, Billy McKinney's been okay, but you're telling me Dalton Pompey is not worth a shot? I don't know. I look at some other guys, and even some, bring him out, send a reliever down if they're able to, and I would have at least given him a chance. And if he wasn't good, then you DFA him, and then that's the end of that. But I personally thought they would have given him a shot. Now, will he be able to sneak back to AAA? I don't think so, but only time's going to tell. I don't know.
Man, I just didn't get this move whatsoever by the Blue Jays. I mean, we kept him on the 40-man roster for so long. We lost Travis Bergeron, and we almost lost Jordan Romano, but then we got him back. But it just didn't make sense to me. We even traded away Dwight Smith Jr. in favor of Dalton Pompey, who had a nice rehab stint. He had 6 hit and 20 at-bats with the Buffalo Bisons, and he was in a groove. And we were wasting some rehab resources on Dalton Pompey just to DFA him. Personally, I would have DFA'd Derek Law and brought up to open up a 40-man spot as he was on the DL, and then send down Billy McKinney because, hey, you just give him a shot, see what he got, and then, as James said, DFA him afterwards. But I just didn't get it whatsoever. I feel bad for the guy, but for his sake, I hope he does get claimed. Maybe a team like the Kansas City Royals or the Miami Marlins take a shot on him, and he can play every day and show what he's got, because he's a 5-tool player. And when teams can, they don't grow on trees, and when teams can take advantage of that, they certainly will. And so I personally don't see any way where Dalton Pompey will be coming back to Toronto or Buffalo. I mean, and if you even look at the big picture, in the depth chart picture, he's behind Jonathan Davis, probably, Anthony Alford, and you could say Socrates Brito also. He's having a nice year in AAA. So there's not really a spot for Dalton Pompey down in Buffalo. So I feel like for his sake, it's time to move on for the Blue Jays for Dalton Pompey, and it's time to really time for a new fresh start for Dalton Pompey. Anything you want to add, Rob?
Oh, sorry guys, my microphone was on mute. I was just babbling along. And
Sorry to say, what happened there?
Yeah, my bad. Yeah, I was sort of giving my take, and all of a sudden you just hear Mo saying, all right, so what I was going to say was not too surprised at all with this move. And the reason why is because I just never had the feeling that Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins ever really thought of Dalton Pompey as a guy who could be an everyday player for them, or even a major league player for them, for that matter. And the reason why is because when Alex Anthopoulos was here. We saw Pompey rush through the minor league system in 2014, and then after just a sample of a month in the big leagues, he was given the starting center field job coming into the 2015 season, but after a month he struggled, went back to the minors, and then when Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins took over, he really never saw another opportunity. He was really just a pinch runner, a September call-up for the playoffs those few years, as you probably remember, and he played a handful of games last year, but he really never got that close of a look, just a sample of 5 games in 2018. So that brings me to believe that they just never really believed in him to play every day for them. And at this point in time, we can talk about him and his potential, but he's going to be 27 years old come at the end of the season, at the end of the year. His birthday's in December. So I think at the end of the day, we can talk about Teoscar Hernandez and guys like that, but Teoscar Hernandez is also 26 as well. So, I mean, eventually, you got to put those skills, those 5 tools, as Mo, you just mentioned, into some playing time. And I just feel that Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins never really believed in him to play him really any significant playing time in the big leagues. That's just my take on it.
But we had guys like Socrates Brito and Alan Hansen up here.
Yeah, but I think those guys were mostly just up there because they were expendable, a lot more expendable. If they didn't work out, you can always send them back down to AAA. And I think they were just being a placeholder for Kevin Biggio until he was ready to come up because they didn't want Kevin Biggio to sit on the bench. And I guess when Kevin Biggio was ready, we saw Socrates Brito go down, Alan Hansen off the team. So I think that's really why they were there. They weren't really given a shot to be part of the future. They were just placeholders. That's just my take on it. All right, so now we got that out of the way. We're going to go right into the thick of this podcast, and that's the trade speculation. This is going to be our last podcast before the trade deadline, 3 p.m. on July 31st, which is next Wednesday. And by the time our next podcast comes around, it'll be past that trade deadline, so it'll be more of a review pod as opposed to speculation because all the trades will be done. And Mo, I know that you wanted to get in on this and bring in some hot takes, so the floor is yours, my man. What do you have for us?
I can't wait to hear these. This must be pretty juicy. Eh? Get some popcorn, get a drink, get your feet up, and enjoy. Because Mo, go ahead, bud.
Let's do it, Mo.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So I have 5 trades that I believe the Blue Jays will make at the 2019 trade deadline, and they're in-depth. They include packages and players. So the first trade I have is Marcus Stroman to the New York Yankees for Clint Frazier, Clark Schmidt, Jimmy Nelson, and Jonathan Loiziga. So Jonathan Loiziga is the second best prospect on the New York Yankees. He is the 94th best prospect in all of baseball. He was signed on September 13th of 2012, and he was up with the big leagues last year. He was okay, had a 4.5 ERA, and he's 5'11", kind of a shorter pitcher, and he's only 24 years old. He is currently injured right now in AAA Scranton, where he has a 7.2 ERA. But many scouts believe that he has the potential to become a really nice pitcher, a starting pitcher for the team. And he throws up to 95 miles per hour, and he has a really nice fading changeup and a high spin breaking ball, which the Blue Jays, I feel like they love high spin breaking balls. And he can get up to 98 with the fastball. So I feel like Jonathan Loiziga would be the headline of the package. Obviously, we all want Deivi Garcia, but he's only 20 years old, and he's 5'9", a Marcus Stroman type. But I just feel like the Yankees will be hesitant to move on him. He's having a pretty nice year in the minors with a 3.17 ERA, but I just feel like he is just untouchable in straight talk. So the next piece is Clark Schmidt. He is, I believe he is 23 years old, and he should be up with the big leagues next year. He was picked 2017, the 16th pick, and right now he is in single A with a 3.23 ERA. He's a high strikeout pitcher who's in the 92 mile per hour range and peaks at 96, but he throws a lot of strikes, and he keeps his pitches down in the strike zone, and his 6'1" frame doesn't create a lot of downhill playing on his pitches, so he'd be a pitcher that could contribute right away for the Blue Jays. Then we have Clint Frazier. We all know Clint Frazier, high home run guy. His defense is not so great. He's currently in AAA Buffalo, but I feel like the Jays would want that type of player that can have an offensive spark on the team, and we don't have that on the team so far. Lourdes Gurriel is a nice outfield, but if you would say you place Clint in right field, move Grichuk to center field, you'd have a nice outfield with Clint playing. And then I had Jimmy Nelson, who is Nick Nelson, who is the 11th pick, 11th overall prospect, and who has a 3.11 ERA in Double-A with 60 strikeouts in 46 innings, and he's also only 23. Let me just fastly do these next. So then I got Ken Giles to Minnesota for Jordan Balzanovich and Nick Gordon. So the Balzanovich is a 5th pick in the Twin System, 5th prospect in the Twin System, best prospect, and Nick Gordon's the 11th best prospect. Giles, the Twins, as you can see their high scoring game the other day, they're in deep need of a reliever, an innings lead, just a bullpen arm, and Giles would certainly fill that role. Moving on, I have Freddie Galvis to Milwaukee for Trey Zubak and Jawan Ward. Trey Zubak is a pitcher who is a very high strikeout pitcher. He's a 20th best prospect in the Brewers system, and then Jawan Ward is just a filler piece. And then we got Eric Sogard to Chicago Cubs for Keegan Thompson and Tyson Miller. Both of them are low A-ball prospects who have high potential, and they're currently unranked. And then we got Justin Smoke to Cleveland for Bobby Bradley and some fillers. So Justin Smoke, I feel like he's going to be a guy that's going to be traded next week. I feel like the Indians should be all over Justin Smoke. Bobby Bradley is on the Cleveland Indians, and he's currently hitting 25 home runs with 58 RBIs, but 106 strikeouts and only 282 at bats in AAA Buffalo, and he should be up in the big leagues next year. So kind of like a Rowdy Tellez ceiling for Bobby Bradley, but maybe even better.
Bobby Bradley has played this year.
Pardon?
Like for Cleveland. Bobby Bradley's played this year for Cleveland. He's been called up.
Yeah, I just realized that.
It's a lot there to digest there. I think each trade is relatively realistic. Going back to the Yankees one, I think that's an interesting package. Clint Frazier, he's a guy that I've always really liked ever since he was a prospect for the Indians when they traded him to the Yankees in the Andrew Miller trade back in 2016. His numbers are impressive for this season. It's limited playing time, but let's just pull them up right now. He's played 53 games, 11 home runs, 34 RBIs, hitting .283 with an OPS of .843. I think he's just a guy who doesn't really have much of a position there, as that it's a pretty stacked outfield with Judge and Hicks, Gardner for another year, and Stanton obviously when he gets back. I feel like he could be expendable, and I think the Jays should be all over Clint Frazier. He's a young guy who at one point was a really high prospect in baseball. Jonathan Loasigna, I can't really pronounce his last name. My apologies. But yeah, he's a very interesting prospect as well. He's an MLB ready pitcher. He's had some major league exposure. Really young pitcher, and as you mentioned, does have some quality tools. I think that's sort of the package that you could expect for the Blue Jays. You can get a nice pitcher in return, and at the same time get a prospect like Clint Frazier to play the outfield. He's a guy who could be playing an everyday outfield for you. I think that's a package that if the Jays are offered, they should be all over that.
And I look at that Yankees trade, and I look at that, and I'm like, that's the type of package that I don't see many other teams making that type of trade. When you're going to see a package like that going from the Yankees, what other team can match that type of offer, or which other team would match that offer? If you're the Yankees, they have anything and everything. They're expendable. They're going for it right now. And you get a guy like Marcus Stroman, a guy who has dominated the AL East, and for the Jays standpoint, getting that type of package back, it just makes sense if they end up moving him. Now, the guy you didn't mention, Mo, that I've been thinking about that could get moved, and you mentioned Minnesota and Ken Giles, but also I think a guy like Daniel Hudson could be a guy that goes to Minnesota as well. You mentioned they need reliever help. I think Daniel Hudson would, if they might even package Giles and Hudson to Minnesota for a bigger package. And I don't know if that's the case or whatnot, but I know Minnesota's been a team that's been interested in guys like Stroman, Giles, and I think I heard it was either yesterday